Joined on the phone today by Caseen Gaines. He's the author of the book, We Don't Need Roads, The Making of the Back to the Future Trilogy. How are you today, sir?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm excellent. I'm excited to talk with you about your new book.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited to talk with you, too.
Well, let's start off then with We Don't Need Roads, The Making of the Back to the Future Trilogy. What made you decide to write it? You just a fan growing up, or?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Back to the Future, and I write books on pop culture, looking at how these pop culture properties impact our cultural history. And so as we approach 2015, I really was surprised that no one had taken a comprehensive look at the making of this really important trilogy. There isn't a person that hasn't heard of Back to the Future, or when they see a DeLorean, think of these Back to the Future films. And so I sought out the filmmakers, the actors, the creative team, and wanted to sort of piece together how these films were made and how these factors ended up impacting around the world.
So when you were trying to get a lot of the information and maybe conducting interviews with some of the cast members, was it difficult to kind of track down this info?
Sort of. I mean, a lot of it was sort of connecting the dots. Once I spoke with two or three people, they would refer me to other people. The internet is a fantastic tool to find people. But I found that everyone was really interested in sharing their stories. So many people are so proud of their involvement. And even though this film is 30 years old, they still feel like Back to the Future is one of the brightest spots on their resume, and that enthusiasm, I think, really shone through when I spoke with people.
Were you able to have any access to Michael J. Fox when you were doing the research?
Michael J. Fox, we actually went back and forth a little bit, and the unfortunate thing is that at the time that I was writing the book, he was filming the Michael J. Fox show that was on NBC last year. And so we weren't able to work it out due to scheduling, which was really unfortunate. But I did speak with Christopher Lloyd and director Robert Zemeckis and Leah Thompson and Huey Lewis and about 65 people who were associated with the Back to the Future films.
And we've always heard that actor Eric Stoltz was in that role of Marty McFly early on. If they had 6 weeks worth of film already shot, he really must have not been working out to want to switch it over after that.
Yeah, Robert Zemeckis really wanted Michael J. Fox from the beginning, and he was unavailable due to, once again, filming a television show, Family Ties. And so they cast Eric Stoltz. He was someone that Sid Sheinberg, who was an executive at Universal, really was advocating for. And with Eric Stoltz, he's a really serious actor, but he just wasn't the right actor for that role. And so they shot for 6 weeks. They tried to make it work, and they just weren't getting the laughs that they had written into the script. So Robert Zemeckis, Steven Spielberg, the rest of the production team went back to Sid Sheinberg and said, we'd really like your permission to replace him. And it ended up costing Universal almost $4 million to do that and start all over. But they did, and as time has proven, it was the right decision.
Yeah, most definitely. It's hard to imagine somebody else in that role. And I read in your book that Michael J. Fox kind of said in that first one he didn't try as hard as he could have, or he didn't do his best. So I wonder, what that would have been like if he felt he did his best.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Michael J. Fox, a lot of people don't realize, but he was shooting Family Ties and Back to the Future at the same time. So he would shoot Family Ties by day, be driven directly to Universal or wherever they were filming that particular night, film Back to the Future, go back, sleep for about 3 hours, wake up, and do it all over again. He was also working Saturdays and Sundays on Back to the Future. So when he was pulling 20, 21-hour days, he had no idea whether he was coming or going. And his agent actually saw the film before he did. And when his agent called him and said, I just saw Back to the Future, Michael J. Fox immediately started apologizing and saying, I'm so sorry, I know I didn't give my all. And his agent said, no, you don't understand. This is going to be the biggest film of the summer. And, of course, his agent was only partly correct because it was the biggest film of 1985 worldwide, not just the biggest film of the summer.
Yeah, that is awesome for sure. Again, we're on the phone today with Caseen Gaines, and he's the author of the book We Don't Need Roads, the making of the Back to the Future trilogy. And I think the thing about your book I like the most, kind of explained a lot of the little changes that went on with the script, and like Doc being called Professor in the original one, and instead of a dog they had a chimp. It seems like a lot of those were just small changes, but I think the film would have been a whole lot different if they had left that in.
Yeah, and one of the things, Robert Zemeckis, who not only was the director but co-wrote the film, he and his screenwriting partner, Bob Gale, had this very simple rule, which was if someone has an idea to make something better, it's because a better idea exists. And so anytime either one of them had a better idea for something, they said, let's keep workshopping it. And they did end up making lots of little changes that had a big impact on the finished film.
It's also one of those films, you mentioned 30 years ago they made it, but it seems like every time you watch it, you can catch, a little something different maybe in the background or the design. It's really one of those films that you can catch something new every time.
And I think that's part of the reason why it's held up. You can see how much care and attention was given to every single frame of that movie. Robert Zemeckis said to me that his goal was that you could cut a piece out of any frame of tape and hang it up on a wall. If you blew it up, it should look like a picture. Every frame should be perfect. And they really tried hard to make that happen. And I think, by and large, they succeeded.
Yeah, most definitely. And of course, I got to ask you, it's 2015 now. The Chicago Cubs are playing pretty well. So do you think hoverboards, hydrated pizzas, do you think that's going to be here before year's end?
The movie Marty McFly goes to October 21st, 2015. So we have another couple months. Anything can happen. We'll see.
Get some of those self-drying jackets. I know they made the shoes with the power laces already, so we're halfway there.
Yeah, and actually, I just ordered a hoverboard prop replica. It doesn't actually float, but I have a hoverboard at home, so maybe I'll get it converted once the technology comes out.
Well, when you were talking to the cast members, did you get a sense from any of them that they thought this film was going to be as big as it was when they were filming it? I know it sounded like Michael J. Fox was kind of just trying to survive through it, but could you sense that maybe they thought something big was happening?
Yes and no. I think actually everyone thought that the film was going to be good. And that's sort of unique. I've written other books, and not everyone has a sense that what they're working on, like you said, they're just trying to survive the day. But the script was so good, and Bob Zemeckis was such a great leader and visionary that everyone felt like it was something special. But then when the movie was the number one film throughout the summer and then continued throughout the fall, when The Power of Love, Huey Lewis's song for the soundtrack, went to number one and the album went gold, and the movie opened up so well overseas and was nominated for 4 Academy Awards and won one, it was everyone was blown away by the degree of success. And that's something that people still sort of seem in awe of, the cast and crew.
So with that being said, do you know if there was ever talk of maybe doing a 4th one or continuing that, or, maybe now with the recent kind of trend with remakes, maybe trying to reboot it somehow?
Everyone that I spoke with was so enthusiastic about never doing another Back to the Future film. They love the way they came out. They feel like they're reflective of a certain time and enthusiasm that everyone had for those projects, and it was great storytelling, but you have to know when the party's over, and so they tied it up nicely, and they don't want to revisit that well. And I hope they don't, too. I hope Universal never remakes it, because it's so perfect the way it is. I can't imagine how they would ever be able to improve upon it.
Yeah, definitely. Again, we're on the phone today with Caseen Gaines, and we're talking about the book We Don't Need Roads, the making of the Back to the Future trilogy. And I know you've written some other books. I've read your one about Pee-wee's Playhouse, and I know you did A Christmas Story.
Oh, thanks.
Do you have another one that's coming on the list here, or something you're going to be working on next?
Sure. But you'll have to stay tuned. You'll have to keep up with me on Twitter or Facebook or something. And my website is CaseenGaines.com, and you can get all my links there. Things are always in the pipeline, always thinking.
Well, yeah, the other books were great, and this one is, it's good to have good material, but, as you mentioned, you got to do a lot of digging and connecting the dots to get it onto the paper.
Yeah, but it's fun. You're talking to people whose work you appreciate, and films that really had an impact on society. You can't see a DeLorean without thinking about Back to the Future. It on social media. There's always this is the day Marty McFly goes into the future, and they're always incorrect. But it's so great that everyone's still so interested in them. I just saw something yesterday online that said Lexus has developed technology to make a hoverboard, and so these films continue to capture the imagination of people, and so it's great to be able to really explore that and figure out how these films were made and why they left such a strong imprint in our society.
Definitely. And you mentioned the website, CaseenGains.com, and is that pretty much the all-to place where you can find info and maybe buy, what's coming up next?
Yeah, you can find everything there, and We Don't Need Roads is obviously available everywhere books are sold right now. So you can check out your favorite online or brick-and-mortar retailer, and it's in there. And if it's not, demand it. It should be in there.
Yeah, and maybe grab a copy of the Sports Almanac while you're at it.
Yes, that's the Ernie Klein who wrote Ready Player One. He said this is the best book he's read since Gray's Sports Almanac. So that's a cool endorsement to have.
Definitely. Well, again, Caseen, thanks a lot for being on with me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it too.
Again, that was author Caseen Gains talking about his book, We Don't Need Roads, The Making of the Back to the Future Trilogy.